What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jade's Corner, and today we have a new video for you guys, and it's a video that's never been done before on YouTube. It's a video that I've wanted to do for years but never really got around to doing so. Oh, and by the way, before I continue, if you guys hear a loud buzzing sort of noise in the background, it's because I have a heater on in my room because we don't have heat in my house at the moment. It just went off, but it'll probably come back on in a little bit because it's on a timer. So if you just hear that noise throughout the video, I'll try to talk over it as loud as I can without making too much noise in my house. So yeah, I apologize for that in advance. But today's video I have for you guys is the complete MTV Teen Wolf timeline. Like I mentioned, nobody's ever done this video on YouTube, probably because it's going to take a long time to make, which it is for me. I have 46 pages of stuff in terms of Teen Wolf events and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot. And yeah, if you guys are ready to hop into the Teen Wolf timeline, make sure you guys leave a like. Also comment down below your thoughts on all the events we talk about today. I know there's going to be some events you guys are probably like, wait, what? That actually happened? Yep. So sit back, relax. Let's do this thing. So we're going to start with pre-season 1. And mind you, this is probably going to be the longest section of the video because there's a lot of stuff that happens before the series begins. So yeah, bear with me here. Ancient times. Lycaon and his sons are turned into wolves and they seek out druids for help. The Wild Hunt comes into existence. The Oni comes into existence. The Beacon Hills no Kitsune, a void kitsune, is born. The 11th century. 12th century. Noshiko Yukimura, a celestial kitsune, was born presumably in Japan. 13th century. Noshiko Yukimura reached a century or so of age and presumably gained the ability to take on a human form. 16th century. A serial killer known as the Demon Tailor caught by authorities, and his crimes were considered so horrendous that they punished him with the Roman practice of damnatio memoriae, or condemnation of memory, which led to every document that even so much as mentioned him by name was destroyed. As a result, his real name was lost to history. The Demon Tailor was said to lure children to his tailor shop in Paris, France, where he would kill them and boil their flesh off their bones to eat. The book in which Scott McCall would later read about him detailed even more horrendous abuse he inflicted on the children prior to being killed and eaten. 17th century, a wealthy and prominent French family, which was implied to be the early members of the Argent bloodline, though this has yet to be confirmed, received a French flintlock turned-over pistol crafted in 1645 as a gift from King Louis XIV. Legend had it that it had only been shot once during a duel between brothers on the grounds of the Palace of Versailles. However, this was later revealed to be a cover story by a werewolf named Kincaid. In reality, one of the brothers had an encounter with a werewolf in the woods where he was bitten and turned into a lycanthrope as well. Due to their family's code, the man's brother shot him and killed him with that very gun. The gun eventually found itself in the possession of Chris Argent in the 21st century, further supporting the theory that it was given to a member of the early generations of the Argent family. 18th century, a French man named Sebastien Vallet alongside with his comrade Marcel were deployed to what is now modern-day Canada to fight for the French and Indian side against Great Britain in the 7 Years' War. An injured Sebastian tripped and fell face first in the forest, accidentally drinking water from the paw print of a wolf, causing him to transform into the demonic werewolf known as the Beast of Gévaudan. Sebastian, now empowered as a werewolf, killed dozens of innocent North American citizens and British soldiers, while Marcel, out of loyalty to his best friend, helped him cover up his deaths. Legends of the Beast of Gévaudan began to travel throughout the French village of the same name, as the men and women and children were all slaughtered by the dozens, though there were many conflicting reports among the villagers as to what the beast actually looked like. This led Sebastian's sister, Marie-Jeanne, to be skeptical of the claims that the beast was supernatural. Marcel and Sebastian returned home in Gévaudan from the war and returned to the French tavern just before the body of a young child, Emile, was found in the woods by Henry Argent, who informed the people in the tavern that the child's last words were La Bête, the French word for the beast. Marie-Jeanne, as the best hunter of mundane animals in Gévaudan, was chosen to lead a hunting party for the beast. While in the woods, the majority of the hunting party was killed by the beast, who badly injured Marie-Jean's leg in the process. Her life was saved by Henry, who put up a barrier of mountain ash to protect them. Henry brought Marie-Jean back to his cabin, where he had revealed that he had spent most of his life collecting the skills and implements necessary to survive a werewolf attack. Marie-Jean decided to combine her knowledge of hunting with his knowledge of werewolves and the supernatural in order to finally kill the beast once and for all. Henry and Marie-Jean set up a plan to expose the beast by forcing everyone in the tavern to drink wine laced with mistletoe berries under the guise of toasting to the dead. Marcel noticed the berries in his cup and, figuring out what they were doing, crushed his glass in his hand to cause a distraction so no one would see that the mistletoe in the wine Sebastian had just drank caused him to partially transform. Marie-Jean found the bodies of dozens of men, women, and children killed by the beast in Marcel's cellar while looking for bandages for his hand, leading her to initially believe that he was the beast. However, when she saw that his hand had not been healed from the broken glass, she realized that he was actually covering for his best friend, Sebastian. Marie-Jean confronted Sebastian in the tavern about the hundreds of people he had killed as the beast, and he explained the process by which he became a werewolf before boasting that his immense strength, power, and bloodthirst would cause him to forever be remembered and feared as the beast of Gévaudan. He then threatened to kill everyone in the tavern if Marie-Jean tried to expose them, forcing her to allow him to leave in exchange for Sebastian abstaining from violence against their fellow townspeople. Henry and Marie-Jean worked together to come up with a way to finally kill the beast, eventually settling on a pike, as it would use the beast's immense strength and weight against them. They created a steel pike in the form of a fleur de lis, which later would become the Argent family symbol, mixing the steel with mountain ash and wolfsbane before forging it in Marie-Jean's blood under the light of a full moon. The two then worked together to finally track Sebastian down. According to reports, the Beast of Gévaudan killed over 100 people in the province of Lozère in 1766. According to a book found in Beacon Hills High School under Beacon Hills High School Library, the beast prowled the Auvergne and South Dordogne areas of France to the point where King Louis XV sent one of his best hunters to hunt and kill it, as the church eventually declared the beast to be a monster and messenger of Satan. After 3 years of searching, Marie-Jean finally tracked her brother Sebastian to a snow-covered forest somewhere in France where her arm was injured in the struggle. She used a pike, which she had hid under a pile of snow, to impale Sebastian in the chest, forcing him to transform back into human form. He began spitting up black blood, causing him to realize that his sister had in fact found a way to kill him, though he took solace in the fact that he would forever be remembered for his brutality and boasted about being the infamous Beast of Gévaudan. However, Marie-Jean revealed that she would be further punishing him with Damnatio Memoriae, striking his name from recorded history to ensure that he would not be remembered by name, but only as a beast. After Sebastian was killed, Marie-Jean and the rest of the townspeople gathered together to burn every document he had ever signed, to repossess all of his personal belongings, to make it appear that he had never existed as far as recorded history was concerned. However, this did not stop the legend of the world's most vicious and feared werewolf from spreading throughout the world through word of mouth, and though very few, such as the members of the Argent family who had learned through stories of the event that was passed down through generations, knew the beast's human identity. Henry and Marie-Jean's partnership eventually grew into a romantic relationship, ending with the two ultimately getting married. Marie-Jean went on to take Henry's last name, Argent, to further ensure that Sebastian Vallet was forgotten by history by erasing the Vallet name completely. They eventually had children of their own, training them in Marie-Jean's expert hunter skills and Henry's expert supernatural knowledge to create the first generation of Argent hunters of supernatural creatures. Marcel, who greatly mourned the loss of his best friend Sebastian and the world's best killer, the Beast of Gévaudan, dedicated his life to becoming a physician. He then became obsessed with the supernatural to the point of worshipping it, and in his in-depth research of metaphysics and the paranormal led him to learn how to harness electromagnetic fields and utilize it, giving him the supernatural power of electromagnetic kinesis. He then learned He then learned a way to use this power to give him extended longevity beyond the normal human lifespan and to manipulate the memories of others, eventually becoming known as the Surgeon. At some point afterward, he was joined by two other fellow physicians, a man who eventually became known as the pathologist and a woman who became known as the geneticist, with whom he shared his knowledge and powers. From then on, the trio became known as the infamous Dread Doctors, and they began experimenting on humans in a variety of different ways with the ultimate goal of resurrecting Sebastian, the Beast of Gévaudan, from the dead. 20th century, 1912. Eichen House was opened as a medical facility. Howin, a hellhound who aided in the creation of Eichen House, chose to enter a frozen state to ensure that he would be ready if the Inukite he and the Wild Hunt had imprisoned ever got loose. After several decades spent in the freezer room, he developed a pyroclastic rock shell over his whole body that helped preserve him in a suspended state until summer 2013, when the Inukite was finally but unintentionally released from its prison. 1939 and 1945. The global war known as World War II, which involved more than 100 million personnel from over 30 countries, was fought, broken down into two opposing military alliances known as the Allies and the Axis powers. Elias Stalinsky served in the United States Army as an engineer, where he was said to have ended the war one bridge at a time, according to his son Noah Stalinsky. 1943. United States events. The attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese military led to the U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt to enact an internment of all Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans to various camps across the United States, particularly in the Pacific Northwest. Among these camps was Camp Oak Creek, located in Beacon Hills, California, where the ancient celestial Kitsune Noshika Yukimura and the recently turned Beta Satomi Ido were, for all intents and purposes, imprisoned with hundreds of other fellow Japanese immigrants and Japanese American citizens. The camp was run by the U.S. Army, including military police officers Merrick and Hayes, an Army physician named Dr. Liston, and a medic, Corporal Reese. Noshiko fell in love with Corporal Reese and secretly began having an affair with him, while periodically stealing from the supplies to ensure that her fellow internees had enough food and medicine to survive somewhat comfortably. Noshiko and Reese discovered that Dr. Liston, Merrick, and Hayes were stealing most of the medications intended for the internees and selling it on the black market for their own profit, including multiple crates of a powerful antibiotic that was necessary to treat the pneumonia epidemic sweeping through the camp. Noshiko informed her fellow internees of what she had learned, not realizing that by doing so, she would be inciting so much panic and anger that tensions in the camp would eventually spiral out of control. One of the internees, a young child named Michio, died from pneumonia due to not having the medication that she needed, leading his father to create a Molotov cocktail out of a bottle of whiskey Noshiko had stolen weeks before the internees began to riot outside. During the riot, Merrick pistol-whipped Satomi across the face with his gun, causing her to lose control over her lycanthropy and expose herself as a werewolf in front of everyone, when she immediately healed and partially shifted with glowing golden eyes, fangs, and claws. She then grabbed the Molotov cocktail in Michio's father's hands and threw it at the car that Dr. Liston was attempting to use to escape, which directly hit Reese and caused him to burn in the flames. The Army soldiers all opened fire on the camp, killing the majority of the internees involved in the riot and seriously injuring both Noshiko and Satomi, the former of whom was assumed to be dead due to her heartbeat slowing considerably as her body fought to heal numerous gunshot wounds. Corporal Reese died from his burns, and due to the fact that Dr. Liston had sold the morphine needed to ease his pain along with the antibiotics, all the dead rioters' bodies were loaded up along with Reese's body and the still weak and healing Noshiko, so that Merrick and Hayes can burn them with the evidence of the fight. Noshiko prayed to her Kitsune ancestors for Kitsune Suki, or possession by a fox spirit, in hopes that they would send a powerful no Kitsune who fed on chaos, strife, and pain to possess her body and imbue her with the power that she needed to heal and get revenge. However, since fox spirits can have a dark sense of humor, the no Kitsune that was sent decided to possess Reese's dead body instead. This is the same Nogitsune who was born in the 11th century as mentioned earlier in the video. The Nogitsune had killed Merrick and Hayes before they could burn the bodies and left to return to the camp to create more chaos, forcing the still healing Noshiko to follow him back. Upon Noshiko's return, she had learned that the Nogitsune had slaughtered nearly all the internees who would survive the riot, along with the soldiers running the camp and the medical personnel at the camp hospital Aiken House. She then grabbed her magical katana from under her bed and tracked the Nogitsune down to the tunnels, where she fought viciously until Satomi, in full werewolf form, helped to restrain the Nogitsune so that Noshiko could stab him with her katana, which shattered into dozens of pieces as the Nogitsune was exorcised from Risa's body. Risa's last words to Noshiko before he died again were "coup de foudre," the French words for love at first sight. The Nogitsune was forced into its fly form, which Noshiko caught and put it in a jar before burying it in the roots of the Nemeton, which was still whole and at its full power, allowing her to use it as a prison to contain him. Germany events. Garrett Douglas, a captain in the Nazi German military division known as the Anna Herbe, the unit dedicated to finding a way to use the occult to win the war, proposed that they find a way to use the Ghost Riders of the Wild Hunt as their own personal army, arguing that since they are an unstoppable army of the dead, they would not be limited by the weaknesses of mortal men. When one of his supervisors, Berend, laughed at his suggestion, Garrett revealed his true nature as a Lowenmensch, a supernatural shapeshifter who's part wolf, part lion, and killed him by slicing his throat open with his claws. Some days later, Garrett's group set out for the Roar Valley to seek out the rift to the Wild Hunt's pocket dimension, where he forced one of his men, Abel, to walk through the rift at gunpoint to see what would happen when Abel was subsequently burned alive. Upon making direct contact with the rift, it summoned the Ghost Riders to them. The Riders, upon their arrival to the real world, wasted no time battling and erasing Garrett's men from existence one by one, and when Garrett partially transformed into his Lowenmensch form to fight them, one of the Ghost Riders lashed at him with their magical whip, and the whip left a gash on Garrett's back that was shallow enough that it didn't erase him from existence, but it was deep enough for the Ghost Rider venom to penetrate his body and prevent him from healing, forcing him to run away to save himself. Still injured from the whip, Garrett sought out the Dread Doctors, physicians who specialized in the supernatural, to see if they could help him. However, as the Dread Doctors were in constant pursuit of a better understanding of the supernatural, they instead decided to keep him as a test subject, injecting him with their green serum mixed with a sedative before putting an oxygen mask on his face and immersing him in a tank. The serum in the tank mixed the Ghost Rider venom and the blood from his perpetually bleeding wound, making the fluid more potent as it was reabsorbed into his body through the wound. Between this and the fact that Garrett was kept in the tank as a prisoner for the next 70 years, all the while absorbing the mystical properties of the serum, he awoke possessing the powers of an Alpha, a Lowenmensch, and a Ghost Rider, giving him an unprecedented power boost, easily putting him on par with the Dread Doctor. 1950. Alexander Argent was born to unnamed Argent parents in Boston, Massachusetts. 1960. May 24th. William Barrow, who would ultimately become known as the Shrapnel Bomber, was born. 1968. Ken Yukimura was born to unknown parents in South Korea. 1970. Chris Argent was born to Gerard Argent and an unnamed mother, presumably somewhere in the United States. 1971. Peter Hale was born. 1976. Leonore, a banshee living in Canaan, California, gave birth to a son named Caleb. 1977. Alexander Argent was bitten by an alpha werewolf who was eventually revealed to be Deucalion during a hunt. Surviving the bite and knowing he would soon turn into a werewolf for the first time, Alexander then rented a room in the Glen Capri Motel in North Central California, which was infamous for its incident of clients committing suicide during their stay. He waited just until before the full moon hits its apex before murmuring, "No cachons su qui no chassent," French for "we hunt those who hunt us," under his breath. As soon as his eyes began glowing bright gold, Alexander shot himself in the head with his shotgun, demonstrating his devotion to the hunter code. 1983. Kate Argent was born to Gerard Argent and an unnamed mother. 1985. Leonore's son Caleb died mysteriously at 9 years of age after drowning in Canaan, devastating Leonore to the point of mental instability. 1987, Jordan Parrish was born to unnamed parents in the United States. The town of Canaan, California was attacked by the Ghost Riders, and they left only the banshee named Leonore as the Wild Hunt's only survivor while erasing every single other person in the town from reality. 1988, Chris Argent gained all the skills necessary to become a hunter and graduated at age 18 by forging a silver bullet as a testament to the hunter code. Chris's first huge mission was Gerard sending him to his first gun deal in Japan, purposely leaving out the fact that the buyers were from the Yakuza or Japanese mafia in order to test his survival instincts and ability to improvise. When Chris got there, he was stunned to learn that he would be dealing with mobsters, but things quickly got even more out of control when 5 Oni appeared out of the shadows in search of a Nogitsune. Everyone in attendance began shooting at the Oni, which only made them start killing anyone who stood in their way with their ninjato swords. Upon finding the Nogitsune in question was possessing the Yakuza's leader, the Kumiko, the Oni all impaled the man at once, causing him to bleed out over a fountain in the Japanese garden. A man named Katashi became so scared that he attempted to run for his life, but was perceived by the others as preparing to fight the Oni on his own, which led Chris standing on his feet, taking a shot at one of the Oni's heads with one of his newly forged silver bullets. Because the bullet went straight through, it didn't kill the Oni, but it did shatter his mask to give the others enough time to run away safely. Camden Leahy was born to Mr. Leahy and his wife in Beacon Hills, and Derek Hale was born to Talia Hale and her unnamed lover in Beacon Hills, California. 1991, Chris and Victoria Argent got married. 1994, Allison Argent was born. Gordon Miller and his pregnant wife, Margaret Miller, were involved in a car accident that killed them upon impact. Margaret was rushed to the hospital where she was given an emergency cesarean section that successfully allowed their son Jackson to survive. Jackson would later be adopted by the Whitmores. 1995, Lydia Martin was born. Malia Tate was born to Peter Hale and the Desert Wolf. Malia's birth inadvertently caused the newborn to take a portion of Corrine's power, making the assassin weaker than most shapeshifters, though still stronger than a human. This event forced her to learn how to use human weapons to defend herself and continue to work as an assassin. Talia Hale would then take all of Peter's memories of Malia's existence using an alpha memory manipulation ritual before taking Malia from Corrine and putting her up for adoption. Malia would then be adopted by the Tates. Scott McCall was born to Melissa and Raphael McCall. Stiles Stilinski was born to Claudia and Noah Stilinski. Theo Rakin was born to Jonathan Rakin and an unnamed wife. And Kira Yukimura was born to Noshiko and Ken Yukimura in New York City. And Isaac Leahy was born to Mr. Leahy and an unnamed wife. 1996, Erica Reyes was born. 1997, Hayden Romero, Liam Dunbar, Mason Hewitt, and Corey Bryant were all born to unnamed parents in Beacon Hills. 21st century, 2003, Claudia Stilinski was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. Alpha werewolves Deucalion, Kali, and Ennis, along with their respective packs, traveled to Beacon Hills to have a summit and seek the guidance of Talia Hale, the powerful and respected alpha of the Hale pack. One of the betas in Ennis's original pack killed an Argent hunter, though whether this was intentional or accidental remains disputed. In retaliation, Chris and Gerard captured a beta and tortured him for information by ripping his claws out and then cutting his body in half. Noah Stilinski, who was a sheriff's deputy at the time, had his first known run-in with the supernatural when he was confronted by an angry and grieving Ennis at Beacon Hills Memorial Hospital after the beta's death. 15-year-old Derek Hale began a romantic relationship with Paige Krosikiva, a human classmate of his at Beacon Hills High School. A younger Peter Hale convinced Derek to arrange to have Ennis, who needed a new beta to replace his power loss caused by the death of his other beta at the hands of the Argents, to give Paige the bite so that she and Derek can stay together forever, and so Paige could protect herself from any threat. However, Derek lost his nerve at the last moment and tried to intervene, only to find that Ennis had already attacked Paige, who ultimately began to reject the bite, and Derek would mercy kill Paige at her own request in the root cellar of the Nemeton, not realizing that by spilling her blood on the tree's roots, he was essentially performing a human sacrifice of a virgin, giving the mystical tree that it hadn't had since it was cut down. Deucalion attempted to make peace with the Argents by arranging a meeting to form a truce at an abandoned distillery, only for Gerard Argent to orchestrate an ambush, killing the Betas who accompanied Deucalion as well as Gerard's own hunters, both out of anger that they too wanted peace between the two communities, as well as to make it appear as though Deucalion's pack had orchestrated the attack against them. Gerard then blinded Deucalion by shoving 2 flashbang arrows into his eyeballs. The next day, Alan Deaton determined Deucalion's blindness was permanent, and this news caused his beta Marco to try and take his alpha status by killing him. However, Deucalion, who partially transformed out of rage, learned that he could see in his werewolf form before he fought back and ultimately killed Marco, and this killing also led him to another realization, that was that an alpha can absorb the power of their beta by killing them. With his lycanthropic powers enhanced to an even higher degree, Deucalion set out to kill the rest of his betas and take their power for his own so that he could never be taken advantage of again. A few weeks later, Deputy Stilinski was then elected to Sheriff of Beacon County. 2004. Evelyn, Malia, and Malia's younger sister, Kylie, were driving back on the road alongside Beacon Hills Preserve on the night of the full moon, and suddenly they came upon Corinne, who had tracked down her biological daughter, Malia, and shot at the Tate family car in an attempt to kill Malia and take her power back. Tara Rakin, Theo Rakin's sister, died of hypothermia after falling off the bridge into the creek, breaking her leg in the process, which prevented her from being able to get out of the icy cold water before she froze to death. Theo was present during her death, but whether he outright killed her by throwing her off the bridge or whether Theo simply refused to give her aid remains to be confirmed. Afterward, Tara's heart was harvested by the Dread Doctors and transplanted into Theo's chest, giving him genetic chimerism, allowing him to be subsequently transformed into a werewolf were-coyote chimera at the age of 9 years old, making him the first and most successful chimera of the Dread Doctors. Deucalion, after having killed all his betas and absorbed their powers, became an augmented alpha and encouraged Ennis and Kali to do the same so that the 3 of them could form their own immensely powerful werewolf pack that would be completely composed of augmented alphas. Shortly afterward, Ennis killed all his betas and emissary to join the alpha pack without hesitation, and once Ennis joined the alpha pack, Kali, who was presumably in a romantic relationship with Ennis, decided to join the alpha pack to be with him and killed all their betas as well. However, she was conflicted about killing her beloved emissary, Julia Bakari, and though she did ultimately maul Jennifer to death, she was unable to go through with making the killing blow. After a moment of hesitation, Kali ultimately decided to leave her for dead in the woods instead of finishing her off, believing it to be a more peaceful way to die. However, unbeknownst to Kali and his sword Deucalion, Julia was able to crawl across the woods to the Nemeton, which had gained a spark of power from Derek's former girlfriend's death. Jennifer then channeled this spark of power in order to hold on to life long enough to be found by Sheriff Stilinski and his deputies. While in surgery at Beacon Hills Memorial Hospital, Julia used her druid powers to cause hundreds of crows to commit a mass suicide in order to gain even more power to survive her injuries. Afterwards, she vowed to get her revenge on the Alpha Pack. While dealing with another problem at the time, Claudia Stilinski was rushed to the hospital and was accompanied by her young son Styles at the time. After he got done with his call and his issue he was dealing with, Sheriff Stilinski went to the hospital to visit his wife and found his 8 or 9-year-old son Styles sitting out in the hallway with his head in his hands, causing him to realize that Claudia had in fact died while he was with a dying girl at the scene of an accident. Sheriff would later realize that the girl was a band who had received a premonition of Claudia's death, but his skepticism regarding the supernatural caused him not to believe her. 2005. Kate Argent, along with nearly a dozen co-conspirators, caused the Hale House fire, which killed Talia Hale and between 8 and 11 werewolves and human members of the family who were gathered there. Peter Hale sustained third-degree burns to over 75% of his body and went into a coma, while his werewolf healing recovered from the burns. Derek and Laura Hale were at school at the time of the fire and were thus the only two known survivors who sustained no injuries. Laura then presumably inherited Talia's alpha power due to her being the second in command, inherited the Hale Pack leadership at the time of Talia's death, and the two siblings fled to New York, where they would live for the next 6 years. Unbeknownst to anyone, there was one other survivor of the Hellfire, Talia's youngest daughter, Cora, who was 11 years old at the time and managed to escape the fire while the fire was still blazing. Believing that her entire family, including Peter, Derek, and Laura, had all died, Cora did as she was trained to do in such a situation and fled in order to hide and heal, eventually ending up in South America, where she joined a pack there and lived until she heard word that Derek had become an alpha in 2011. 2006, the Beacon Hill Cyclone swim team, coached by Mr. Leahy, won the state championships, a title the school swim team had not achieved since. To celebrate the win, Mr. Leahy threw a pool party at the Leahy house, which included team members such as Camden, Kara Simmons, Tucker Cornish, Jessica Barlett, Sean Long, and Bennett, who would eventually become a hunter under the Argents. During the party, Matt Delhair came to the Leahy house to visit his friend Isaac Leahy, and they traded comic books before becoming curious about what was going on at the party and going to the pool to see for themselves. It was then revealed that Mr. Leahy allowed the team members to drink alcohol, which resulted in them all getting very drunk and fooling around with each other in the swimming pool. Camden decided to throw Matt in the water despite protests that he couldn't swim, and because so many of the other team members were distracted by hooking up with each other, nobody noticed that Matt had sunk under the water right away. Matt was eventually rescued by Mr. Leahy and given CPR to save his life, but he became so furious that he nearly got them all in legal trouble that he viciously berated Matt for not being able to swim at his age before demanding Matt not to tell anyone what happened. In the aftermath of the near-death experience, Matt began experiencing night terrors, flashbacks, and panic attacks that neither of his parents nor doctor could explain. Since Matt kept his promise to not reveal that he had nearly drowned in Leahy's swimming pool, they assumed that he had asthma and prescribed him an inhaler, but it did nothing to help Matt. The grudge that Matt held against everyone at the party who had nearly let him die is what led him to go on his killing spree 5 years later in 2011. 2009. Lorraine Martin, a banshee who had predicted her wife Maddie's death decades earlier, was desperate to figure out how she did it and found a fellow banshee, Meredith Walker, then 16 years old, in Aiken House. Meredith was brought to the Martin family's lake house where they had her listen to a blank record with headphones to see what information she could derive from the vibrations. However, the volume seriously injured Meredith both physically and mentally, and she was sent to the same hospital where Peter Hale was still receiving treatment after going into a coma as a result of the burns he sustained in the Hill House fire. Peter's thoughts somehow found the same metaphysical wavelength as Meredith's banshee telepathy, causing her to hear nearly every thought in his head for the duration that they were kept in the same room. And it was then that Peter got the idea for the Deadpool and gave Meredith the information she needed to orchestrate it, such as using bearer bonds in the Hell Vault to finance it. Danny Mahalani, then 14 years old, had surgery due to a misshapen cartilage in his ribcage, a condition which he was born with. Doctors surgically implanted a metal bar to support his sternum so his heart and lungs would not be crushed by his ribs, leaving him with a scar on either side of his ribcage. 2010, October-November. Alan Dean heard word of a dead deer found in the Beacon Hills Preserve that had a spiral burn in its fur. As a symbol of revenge and werewolf culture, he passed the news on to Laura Hale, who had returned to her hometown of Beacon Hills from New York to investigate the message. Early 2011, Peter Hale, who had just started coming out of his 6-year-long coma, went out into the woods where he stumbled upon Laura looking for clues, and since she was caught off guard and Peter was struggling to control himself, he was able to kill her and take her alpha powers for his own. Chris Argent, Victoria Argent, and Allison Argent moved back to Beacon Hills, California, likely as a result of hearing news that Laura Hale had returned for the first time in nearly 6 years. The Argent family of hunters found Laura's body in the woods and cut it in half to ensure that she wouldn't come back to life, and also to lure her brother Derek Hale back to Beacon Hills as well. January 2011, Day 1, Sunday, January 9th, night when Scott McCall gets bitten. Day 2, Monday, January 10th, the first day back at school, lacrosse practice, and Scott meets Allison. Day 3, Tuesday, January 11th, Scott and Stiles meet Derek. Allison brings the wounded dog to the clinic. Day 6, Friday, January 14th, Scott wakes up in the woods. Jackson confronts him about using steroids. Stiles calls Scott over for researching werewolves and date with Allison at the Friday night party at Lydia's house. Full moon. Actual full moon in January 2011 is on the 19th. Day 7, Saturday, January 15th. Stiles picks up Scott on the side of the road. Day 9, Monday, January 17th. Scott apologizes to Allison for leaving her stranded. Scott goes to the locker room in a daze because he just learned that Chris is Allison's father. Scott dislocates Jackson's shoulder and shifts on the lacrosse field. Derek confronts Scott in his room and tells him that he's not allowed to play in the lacrosse game. Day 10, Tuesday, January 18th. Scott tries to tell the coach that he can't play. Scott confronts Derek at the Hale house. Scott and Stiles dig up Laura Hale's body. Day 14, Saturday, January 22nd. Scott's first game as first line. Scott and Allison have their first kiss. Jackson discovers Scott's glove. Derek is released from custody. Day 16, Monday, January 24th. The first day back at school after the game. Scott references his date tomorrow. Scott visits Derek. Scott and Stiles go to the school parking lots so Scott can trigger his memories. Day 17, Tuesday, January 25th. Date with Allison, Jackson, and Lydia at the bowling ring. Argent threatens Derek. The bus driver dies. Scott and Derek fight, and Derek tells Scott about the Alpha for the first time. Day 19, Thursday, January 27th. Kate Argent returns to Beacon Hills. Kate shoots Derek. Day 20, Friday, January 28th. Allison greets her aunt. Derek goes to the high school to find Scott and ends up in Stiles' Jeep. Scott and Allison have a study date. Scott implies that Allison has lived in her house for over a month. If the Argents moved in a couple of weeks before school started, then that would be accurate. Scott finds the wolfsbane bullet. Derek uses the wolfsbane bullet to heal himself, and Derek takes Scott to meet Peter Hale for the very first time. Kate and Chris discuss hunting the Alpha. Day 21, Saturday, January 29th. The Alpha kills the video store clerk. Derek tells Scott the full moon is in 1 week. Day 23, Monday, January 31st. Allison grabs her stuff for school. It's Allison's birthday. Scott and Allison skip school. Kate attacks Derek at his house. Parent-teacher conferences. Chris Argent kills a mountain lion found in the school parking lot. February 2011. Day 24, Tuesday, February 1st. Derek ambushes Scott in the grocery store parking lot. The Alpha draws a spiral on Scott's car. Derek hides in Scott's room. Day 25, Wednesday, February 2nd. Scott tries to stay away from Allison. Stiles teaches Scott to keep himself under control using an anchor. Derek visits Peter. Derek beats up Deaton. Scott, Stiles, and Derek summon the Alpha to the school. Allison, Jackson, and Lydia end up at the school as well. The Alpha tries to make Scott kill his friends. Allison tells Scott not to call her, and they temporarily break up. Day 28, Saturday, February 5th. Stiles takes Scott to the woods to get him drunk. Day 30, Monday, February 7th. Full moon. Stiles gets put on first line for the very first time. Scott kisses Lydia at school due to the influence of the full moon. Jackson and Allison talk about the night at the school. Derek returns and stops Scott from attacking Jackson and Allison, and Kate and Chris decide that Stiles is a werewolf. Day 31, Tuesday, February 8th. The Alpha visits Mr. Harris. Scott and Stiles save Derek from the police. Day 32, Wednesday, February 9th. Scott must ask Allison for her necklace. Jackson gets his claw wounds checked out. Quarterfinals lacrosse game, and the first game Stiles will go to play. Stiles introduces Derek to Danny as his cousin Miguel. Stiles and Derek find Peter, perfectly healed in the hospital. The Cyclones win. Derek and Peter visit Scott in the locker room. Allison finds the flash bomb in the garage. Day 33, February 10th, Thursday. Allison tests the flash bomb arrow. Scott returns her necklace. Stiles gets his dad drunk so he will talk to him about the murder cases. Peter takes Scott's mom on a date. Derek tells Jackson he'll make him a werewolf. Kate captures Derek and brings Allison to see him. Allison gets caught speeding and then goes to practice shooting. Day 34, Friday, February 11th. Scott wakes up at the animal clinic. Scott tries to find his phone. Kate tortures Derek. Day 38, Tuesday, February 15th. Scott tries to quit the Cyclones in order to go to the formal. Lydia and Allison go dress shopping. Peter finds Allison in the mall. Kate figures out that Scott is the second beta. Day 41, Friday, February 18th. The winter formal dance. Stiles dances with Lydia. Scott dances with Danny and Allison. Peter attacks Lydia in the lacrosse field and bites her. Chris Argent tries to kill Scott, revealing to Allison that he's a werewolf. Scott finds Derek. Peter kidnaps Stiles. Everyone has a showdown at the Hale house. Derek becomes an alpha by killing Peter Hale. This concludes the season 1 events of Teen Wolf. Day 44, Monday, February 21st. Lydia goes missing from the hospital, placed here because Stiles has been there, in quotes, all weekend. Day 46, Wednesday, February 23rd. Lydia finds Stiles and the sheriff because she has been missing for 2 days. Pop quiz in chemistry. Stiles gets detention. Kate's funeral. Day 47, Thursday, February 24th. Isaac Leahy's father is killed by the Kanima. Scott and Allison meet in the woods. Day 52, Tuesday, February 29th. Isaac is taken away for questioning in his father's death. It is unlikely that it would take this long, but it is the only way to get 2 full moons in February. Jackson tells the sheriff that Isaac was being beaten. Jackson attempts to videotape himself at night for his first transformation as a werewolf. Full moon. Allison and Scott encounter the Kanima. Stiles is discovered in the sheriff's office along with the holding cell busted open. March 2011. Day 52. Wednesday, March 1st. Jackson wakes up and checks the camera but doesn't find anything. Day 53. Tuesday, March 2nd. Erica attempts to climb the rock wall in gym class. Derek seduces her into taking the bite. Day 54. Friday, March 3rd. Lydia sees a vision of Peter Hale at the school and follows him to a trophy case. Erica shows up at school looking like a bombshell. Stiles, Scott, Allison, and Lydia go to the ice skating rink. Day 57. Monday, March 6th. Scott talks to Erica about being turned into a werewolf. Victoria Argent believes that Scott and Allison are still together and confronts Mrs. McCall. Scott figures out that Boyd is going to be the next beta and tries to stop it. Derek wounds Scott. Jackson lifts his truck. Scott goes to Deaton about his wound. Stiles is at the garage getting his Jeep fixed when the Kanima kills the mechanic. Scott picks up Stiles at the armor tire. Derek trains the betas in the subway station. Day 58, Tuesday, March 7th. Stiles runs messages back and forth between Scott and Allison. Lydia visits the guidance counselor and talks with young Peter Hale. Jackson gives Danny a copy of the video of him to enhance. Gerard and Allison leave his office at around 6:45 p.m. to attend the lacrosse game. The Kanima attacks Derek, Erica, and Stiles at the pool. Scott is invited to an awkward dinner at the Argents. Scott saves Stiles and Derek, but the Kanima escapes. Day 59, Wednesday, March 8th. Derek questions Jackson about what happened to him on the night of the full moon. Day 60, Thursday, March 9th. Jackson tells Sheriff Stilinski that he didn't see Isaac and his father fight. Isaac returns to school. Danny recovers the lost video of Jackson. Lydia has another vision of Peter. Erica and Isaac test Lydia to see if she's the Kanima. Miss Morell translates some of the bestiary page about the Kanima. Derek and the betas follow. Everyone learns that Lydia isn't the Kanima. Derek and Chris Argent chase the Kanima to the jungle. Jackson attacks Danny. Lydia sees young Peter Hale at her house. Day 61, Friday, March 10th. Jackson wakes up in the sheriff's department transport van. Mr. Whitmore tells Sheriff Stilinski that something is wrong with his son based on a text message. Econ midterm. Everyone knows that Jackson is missing. Allison tells Stiles that the cops are on to him. Scott checks on Danny in the hospital and learns that Danny's tablet has been stolen from his car. Jackson breaks out of the van. Allison learns that the Kanima seeks a master, not a friend. Allison calls Scott and Stiles to tell them what she's learned. Day 64, Monday, March 13th. Derek, Isaac, and Erica talk in the subway lair. World History midterm. Allison gives Scott a tablet with Lydia's Kanima translation. Scott takes his chemistry exam. Everyone gets detention. Melissa McCall tells Victoria Argent that their kids are still dating. Jackson turns into the Kanima in the library and tells them all to stay out of his way or he will kill them. Mr. Harris is seen driving a car with the same bumper sticker as the Kanima's master's car. Lydia ends up in the Hale house and realizes that she's been seeing visions of Peter Hale. Day 66, Wednesday, March 15th. Sheriff Stilinski and Stiles talk about the Kanima murders. Scott, Isaac, and Derek meet with Deaton. Day 68, Friday, March 17th. Scott and Stiles arrive at the school talking about how to get tickets to the rave that Matt invited Allison to. They trap the Kanima, but it still kills Kara. Stiles puts a mountain ash circle around the rave. Victoria Argent attempts to kill Scott, but Derek saves him. Victoria Argent then gets bitten by Derek Hale. Miss Morrell reveals that she knows about the supernatural. Peter appears to Lydia and tells her about the worm moon. Chris cleans Victoria's werewolf bite. Derek and Scott talk about whether it's even possible to kill the Kanima. Day 80, Wednesday, March 29th. Derek chains the betas up in the subway car while Scott is out looking for Jackson. Stiles and his dad realize that all the Kanima's victims were on the 2006 swim team. Full moon. Lydia's birthday. Victoria commits suicide in Allison's room. Lydia drags Derek to the Hell house. Peter Hale is resurrected. Stiles and Scott convince the sheriff to investigate Matt as the killer. Matt takes Scott, Stiles, the sheriff, and Melissa McCall hostage in the sheriff's station. Derek overhears that Scott has betrayed him with Gerard. Gerard kills Matt. Peter sees Gerard take control of the Kanima. Day 81. Police fish Matt's body out of the river. Sheriff Stilinski gets his job back. Day 82. Friday, March 31st. Stiles talks to Miss Morrell. Gerard and the Kanima visit Scott in his house. Day 90. Saturday, April 8th. Placed here because Jackson was at practice and, quote, last week as though nothing happened. Boyd and Erica tell Derek that they're leaving Beacon Hills. Isaac visits Scott and Dr. Deaton at the clinic and learns how to siphon pain away. Championship lacrosse game. Gerard kidnaps Stiles. Peter tells Derek that Jackson can be saved by the power of Lydia's love. Derek and Peter find Scott and Isaac. Gerard tells Allison that the end is starting. Melissa inspects Jackson's body at the morgue and finds that he is changing and evolving. Scott and Isaac bring Jackson's body to a warehouse and meet Peter and Derek. Gerard crashes the party. They all fight. Scott makes Derek bite Gerard, and Jackson is restored into a werewolf. Day 91, Sunday, April 9th. Derek, Isaac, and Peter find the Alpha Pack symbol on the door of the Hale House. And this brings us to the end of the Teen Wolf Season 2 events. Day 227, Monday, August 13th, 2011. Isaac is rescued by Brayden. Scott gets his tattoo. Brayden calls Scott an alpha as she's wheeled into the ER. Day 228, Tuesday, August 14th. The first day of Scott McCall's junior year of high school. Ethan and Aiden start taking classes at Beacon Hills High School. 9 a.m. Brayden breaks out of the hospital. Crows crash into the English classroom. Deucalion, Kylie, and Ennis try to kidnap Isaac, but Scott and Derek stop them. Derek brings Isaac to the Hell House to use Wolfsbane to heal him. Scott asks him how to make his tattoo show up. Scott learns about the Alpha Pack for the first time. Brayden, quote-unquote, dies. Day 229, Wednesday, August 15th. Scott and Stiles go to a birthday party for Stiles' friend Heather. Allison and Lydia show up to show Scott their bruises they got from Brayden the previous day. Heather is abducted. Day 230, Thursday, August 16th. Peter shares memories with Isaac to find out what he saw in the Alpha Pack's lair. Scott, Derek, Allison, Lydia, and Stiles meet at the school so Derek can see the bruises. Sheriff Stilinski questions Stiles about Heather's disappearance. Deaton gives Isaac an ice bath to help him remember his memories of being in the Alpha Pack's lair. Stiles and Scott research the Beacon Hills First National Bank robbery. Day 231, Friday, August 17th, a full moon. The police still have no news on Heather. Stiles realizes that his father is part of the bank robbery investigation. Allison goes to the bank to find evidence for Derek. Miss Morrell catches her and makes sure that she stays in the bank hidden and waits until she hears fighting. Stiles, Derek, and Scott's plan on how to break into the vault. Cora Hale is introduced for the very first time, and it is revealed to the first time, to Derek's knowledge, that she was another survivor of the Hale House fire. Moraine Morrell locks Scott and Derek in the vault with Cora and Boyd using Mountain Ash. Allison hears the fighting and breaks the Mountain Ash line to keep Boyd from killing Scott. Boyd and Cora escape. Boyd attacks some children in the woods, but fireflies stop him from hurting them. Scott asks Chris Argent to help him trap Boyd and Cora. Derek, Scott, and Isaac lead Boyd and Cora to the boiler room at the high school. Derek goes in to keep Boyd and Cora from killing each other or Miss Blake, who is trapped down there as well. Stiles realizes that all the victims have been virgins. Day 242, Tuesday, August 28th. Kyle brings Bullet to the Beacon Hills Animal Clinic to get him checked out. The clinic is only open for business on weekdays. Day 243, Wednesday, August 29th. Derek checks on Miss Blake before school starts. Stiles tells Scott that someone needs to sex him right now, and Danny offers. Kyle is found dead on the cross-country route. Deucalion, Collie, and Ennis attack Derek in his loft and impale him onto a pole. The twins lock Isaac and Allison in the closet to make Isaac have a PTSD episode. Derek throws Isaac out of the loft, and Isaac moves in with the McCalls. Mr. Harris is taken and killed as the third warrior sacrifice. September 2011. Day 247, Sunday, September 2nd. Scott talks to Allison about finding her arrow at the school. Scott meets Deucalion in the elevator at Allison's building and discovers that the Alpha Pack is living in Allison's apartment. Day 248, Monday, September 3rd. Scott tries to go to talk to Deucalion alone, but Isaac insists on coming with him. Scott, Derek, Isaac, Boyd, and Cora fight Deucalion and the Alpha Pack in the abandoned mall. Derek and Ennis fall down a few stories onto an elevator and appear to have quote-unquote died. Day 249, Tuesday, September 4th. The cross-country team is going to meet in another town. Scott's wounds from the fight the previous day aren't healing, and Cora and Peter inspect the abandoned mall. Stiles makes the bus pull over. Allison stitches Scott's wounds closed. Deucalion kills Ennis at the animal clinic. Derek stumbles to Miss Blake's car, bleeding and collapses. Bus pulls into Motel Glen Capri because the meet has been postponed. Boyd, Ethan, Isaac, and Scott have hallucinations and almost commit suicide. Jennifer brings Derek to his loft to check his wounds, and they end up having sex. Day 250, Wednesday, September 5th. The werewolves are all on the bus in the morning. Chris goes to see Gerard Argent and asks about Alexander Argent. Day 251, Thursday, September 6th. The ER attending Dr. Hilliard are abducted. Danny is poisoned with mistletoe. Day 252, Friday, September 7th. The Alpha Pack leaves their symbol on the window of Derek's loft. Scott and Isaac are in Melissa's room in the morning, having watched over her while she slept. Deaton is abducted. Boyd and Isaac go to Derek's loft to try and help them against the Alpha Pack. Dr. Hilliard's body is discovered. Cora threatens Lydia. Scott talks with Deucalion in the school music room. Stiles, Lydia, and Cora try to get a location on Deaton. Allison shows Scott her father's map. Scott and the sheriff find a way to save Deaton. Kali attacks Derek and impales Boyd on Derek's claws, killing him, making Derek essentially become an augmented alpha out of being forced to. Day 254, Sunday, September 9th. Stiles asks about Derek 2 days after Boyd dies. Asks Cora if disappearing for 2 days is normal. Day 257, Wednesday, September 12th. Tara investigates a 911 call at the school. The band members stay late to practice. Scott finds Tara's dead body. 258, Thursday, September 13th. Scott and Stiles talk to Ethan. Cora attacks Aiden and gets hit with a weight. Derek returns and finds Jennifer at the school. Mr. Westover is taken. Allison and Isaac think Chris Argent is the killer and go to a location near the animal clinic to find Mr. Westover. Miss Blake nearly kills Lydia. Miss Blake abducts Sheriff Stilinski. Scott and Stiles tell Derek about Miss Blake to prove she is the Duroc. Everyone goes to the hospital to save Cora. Deucalion and the Alpha Pack try to get Miss Blake at the hospital. Miss Blake takes Melissa McCall as her next sacrifice. Scott agrees to join Deucalion. Stiles wakes up Derek and gets him out of the hospital. Agent McCall shows up at the hospital and asks Stilinski questions, Stilinski referring to Stiles. Derek takes Cora back to his loft. Day 260, Friday, September 14th. Derek takes more of Cora's pain. Chris Argent allows himself to be captured by Jennifer Blake. Stiles and Lydia realize that Lydia has been drawing images of the Nemeton. Lydia goes to see Derek and Peter to ask for the Nemeton's location. Scott and Deucalion talk in the woods. The twins try to kill Miss Morell. Day 261, Saturday, September 15th. Scott, Stiles, and Allison sacrifice themselves as part of a ritual in ice baths in the early morning. Scott, Stiles, and Allison wake up 16 hours later with 4 hours left before the full moon/lunar eclipse. Ethan defects to tell Lydia and Derek that Kali is coming with Aiden and knows about the lunar eclipse. Scott, Allison, and Isaac go to collect things to use to track their parents. The lunar eclipse begins. Scott becomes a true alpha after stopping the Duroc. Derek tricks Jennifer into using some of her power to heal Deucalion's eyes and to restore his eyesight. Deucalion slashes Jennifer's throat. Derek and Scott let Deucalion go. Peter finds Jennifer near the Nemeton and kills her. Day 262, Sunday, September 16th. Allison pronounces the new Argent code. This brings us to the end of the Teen Wolf Season 3 Part 1 events. Three weeks later, Tuesday, October 9th, Stiles wakes up screaming from a nightmare. Scott's shadow starts to distort into a monstrous alpha. Mr. Yukimura takes over as the history teacher. Everyone meets Kira Yukimura for the first time. Allison nearly shoots Lydia in the head with an arrow. Sheriff Stilinski asks Scott and Stiles to help him with an old case involving a missing girl. Isaac reports to Scott about the incident in the woods. Wednesday, October 10th. Stiles sees his whole class signing something at him. Kira overhears everyone talking about their symptoms. Scott and Stiles visit Deaton for some answers. Thursday, October 11th. Sheriff Stilinski goes to talk to Mr. Tate while Stiles and Scott look for anything with a scent. Scott decides to go have a look at the car wreck himself. Scott finds a shifter in the woods and chases it, and he thinks it might be Malia Tate. Derek and Peter Hell are being tortured somewhere. Peter's fingers are cut off, or his finger is cut off. Scott and Stiles find Malia's den and call the sheriff in to show him. Friday, October 12th. Kira gives Scott some research on Bardo. Stiles has a panic attack in class and thinks he's in a dream. Malia attacks Kira in the school. Mr. Tate sets up traps in the woods. Ethan and Aiden beat up Scott, trying to teach him to Alpha Roar. Scott, Isaac, Stiles, Lydia, and Allison go to the woods to find Malia. Scott Alpha Roars. Braden saves Derek and Peter. Peter and Derek retrieve a box with the Triskelion. Sunday, October 29th. Barrow is brought to the Beacon Hills Hospital. Monday, October 30th. Mischief Night. Mischief Night, October 30th, is on Sunday in 2011. Barrow escapes. Scott has dinner at Kira's house. Peter uses Talia's claws to mind meld with Derek. Stiles and Lydia go back to the school to look for evidence. Barrow kidnaps Kira. Scott tries to save Kira at the power plant. Kira absorbs all the electricity in Beacon Hills. Shadows and Black Mask attack Isaac. Agent McCall questions Stiles, Scott, Lydia, and Kira. Tuesday, October 31st. Halloween 2011. Danny's blacklight party is moved to Derek's loft on Aiden's suggestion. Kira reveals to Scott that she has a fox aura. Scott and Kira break into the sheriff's station to delete photos off her phone. Stiles kisses Caitlin and she talks to him about being bisexual. The Oni attack Derek, Ethan, Lydia, and Aiden. Chris Argent gets badly hurt. Styles realizes that he was the one who opened the chemical storage closet and wrote the message to Beryl on the blackboard. Wednesday, November 1st. Scott brings Kira home. The twins follow Scott around the school to protect him from the Oni. Chris, Isaac, and Allison meet with Katashi. Styles goes to the hospital for his insomnia. The Oni attack Scott's house and give him and Kira the marks that they passed the test. Styles rips the fireflies out of the Oni. Thursday, November 2nd. Scott gets a call from Styles telling him that he's lost. Derek, Lydia, Scott, and Aiden start searching. Lydia leads them to Eichen House, but Styles isn't there. Agent McCall hears about the disappearance late, but he thinks he knows where Styles is. McCall and Melissa find Styles in Malia Tate's den. Friday, November 3rd. Styles gets an MRI. Derek and Kira go to the power station on a school day. Derek tells Scott that he thinks Styles is the Nogitsune. The Nogitsune takes over Styles and blows up a transformer on the hospital roof. Deaton gets the Lotharia Volpina in Japan. Monday, November 6th. In the morning, Scott asks his mom if there's been any news on Styles or Isaac. Scott and the twins find Styles in the basement. Coach gets shot in the stomach with an arrow. Chris and Derek are arrested on suspension of killing Katashi. A bomb goes off in the sheriff's station. Derek protects Chris from the blast. The Oni come after Styles. The Nogitsune reveals that it has been in control the whole day, urging Scott to take people's pain. Deaton poisons the Nogitsune with Lotharia Volpina. Wednesday, November 8th. Styles is put into Eichen House. Thursday, November 9th. The sheriff goes down to L.A. The pack plans an armored car heist. Styles meets Malia Tate for the first time in Eichen House. Derek and Chris talk in a lockup. Styles attends group therapy. Styles and Malia break into the basement. Styles gives in to the Nogitsune to keep him from harming Malia. Friday, November 10th. Malia leaves Eichen House to look for Scott. Saturday, November 11th. Nogitsune comes to the school looking for Noshiko's tails. Must happen on a Saturday. Derek, Chris, Allison, and the sheriff team up to find the Nogitsune. The Nogitsune leaves them a clue in Styles' room that brings them to Derek's loft. Noshiko has Kira reforge the sword she used to stop the Nogitsune all the way back in 1943. The sheriff, Chris, Allison, and Derek find the Nogitsune in the loft, but are unable to contain him. The Nogitsune escapes and meets Noshiko in the basement of Eichen House after teleporting there, where he cuts himself open and releases fireflies. Scott and Kira share their first kiss, as well as Allison and Isaac. Peter tells Derek that chess is Styles' game, but not the Nogitsune's. Sunday, November 12th. Ethan and Danny shower together after lacrosse practice. Lydia and Aiden are on their way to see Malia, but Lydia ends up driving them to a parking lot where the Nogitsune is passed out. Scott and Lydia enter the Nogitsune's mind to free Styles. The Nogitsune vomits up Styles, and there are now two beings that look like him. The Nogitsune, now in the shape of Styles' body, runs off with Lydia. The fly possessed recover. Noshiko tests Styles with the Oni and he passes. Styles and his father are reunited. The sheriff goes to Eichen House to find Meredith. Monday, November 13th. Ethan and Aiden get shot in the woods. Meredith goes to Beacon Hills High School and is found in Coach's class. They discover that Lydia is at Oak Creek and everyone heads over there. Derek shows Chris a shotgun shell that he recognizes. Allison Argent is killed and dies in Scott's arms after saving Isaac from an Oni. Scott, Lydia, and Isaac are at the station to report Allison's death as a carjacking. Isaac goes home with Chris. Tuesday, November 14th. The Oni attack the Beacon Hill Sheriff Station. Scott and Lydia talk to Deaton about the Triskelion. The Nogitsune attacks the hospital. The Oni appear at the animal clinic and mark Deaton. Scott, Styles, and Lydia and Kira go to the school to meet Derek with the Triskelion. Derek and the twins fight the Oni outside the school. Scott, Styles, Lydia, and Kira fight them in an illusion inside the school, which Styles realizes that it isn't real. Chris and Isaac show up with Allison's silver arrowheads and kill all the Oni. Aiden is killed while trying to kill an Oni. The Nogutsune physical body / Styles impersonation body dies when Scott bites him and Kira stabs him. Friday, November 17th. Kate wakes up in an old car with a tape deck and finds the first part of the Deadpool. Must occur before Derek is taken because his kidnapping starts the Deadpool by funding it. Monday, November 20th. Chris and Isaac leave Beacon Hills for France. Malia starts high school. Kira talks to Lydia about how long to let Scott grieve over Allison's death. Severo and some hunters attack Derek in his loft, and Kate Argent reveals herself to Derek as being brought back to life as a new shapeshifter, and she ends up shooting Derek. This brings us to the end of the Teen Wolf Season 3 Part 2 events. Wednesday, December 28th. Dark moon follow full moons. Therefore, the dark moon they rescue Derek cannot be in January. Styles, Lydia, Scott, Kira, and Malia go to Mexico to rescue Derek. Brayden leads them to La Iglesia. Scott busts through the wall in La Iglesia to find Derek. Derek has been de-aged back to a teenager. The gang returns to Beacon Hills and gives Derek to Deaton. Thursday, December 29th. Derek wakes up and attacks Deaton. He runs to where the Hell House used to be. Lydia and Kira find the gas station attendant that Kate killed. Malia and Scott go to talk to Peter. Kate sneaks into Scott's house and takes Derek. Derek opens the Hell Vault under the school. Derek fights the Berserkers and regains his yellow eyes and returns to his normal age. The benefactor steals $117 million from the Hell Vault. January 2012, Wednesday, January 4th. The Mute kills a family of Wendigos except for Sean, the youngest of the family. Thursday, January 5th. Derek and Peter talk to Brayden. They were robbed a week ago. Scott and Styles try out for lacrosse and meet Liam Dunbar for the first time. Lydia and Paris discover the Wendigo's freezer. Sean kills a deputy and tries to kill Liam. Scott bites Liam, turning him into a werewolf to keep him from falling to his death on top of the hospital. Scott kidnaps Liam and brings him to his house. Friday, January 6th. Scott and Styles confront Liam at school after he ran away from them. Kira helps to get Liam to the lake house so they can try to keep him trapped during the full moon. Styles locks Malia in the basement during her shift. Violet kills DeMarco Montana. First part of the Deadpool is uncovered. Sunday, January 8th. Lydia spends the weekend at the house trying to learn the next key. Violet kills Carrie. Scott and Styles explain to the sheriff about the Deadpool. Thursday, January 19th. Lacrosse scrimmage with Devin Ford. Brett takes on Liam. Garrett tries to kill Brett on the field. Violet tries to kill Scott but fails miserably. Derek shows Chris the vault and tells him that he's losing his powers. Second part of the Deadpool is uncovered. Agent McCall shows up at the school to check up on Scott after the scrimmage. Deaton saves Brett from dying. Peter reveals that he's stronger than he should be. Friday, January 20th. Scott overhears his mom trying to get the power back on. Derek goes to the school to get Malia so she can help him find Satomi's pack. Styles and Lydia tell Paris that he's on the Deadpool. Styles and Lydia take Paris to see Meredith in Eichen House, but Meredith can't help them. Chris and Scott track down to the Berserkers. Derek and Malia discover Satomi's pack dead and find Brayden wounded. Lydia unlocks the last part of the Deadpool. Meredith commits suicide. Peter finds Kate in the sewers and offers to help her learn to control her powers in exchange for gaining even more power. Derek brings Brayden to the hospital. Styles and Scott discuss whether to tell Derek and Peter about the money. Saturday, January 21st. Styles, Scott, and Malia take the PSATs. The PSATs occur on a Saturday. The high school is infected with a virus that kills werewolves. Satomi brings one of her wolves to Deaton, but he dies in the hospital. They discover that reishi mushrooms can cure the virus. Styles is almost killed, but Agent McCall shoots the assassin and kills him before the assassin can shoot Styles in the head. Scott releases the reishi mushrooms in the vault. Malia reads her name on the Deadpool as Malia Hale, and she leaves Styles by himself. Styles can't get to sleep because he's thinking about Malia. Agent McCall does the paperwork for having killed an assailant and leaves for San Francisco. Sunday, January 22nd. Kira uses her Foxfire to mostly kill Scott. Brayden checks on Derek's wounds and starts to teach him how to use guns. Noshiko gets hurt by a berserker. They wait for the benefactor, but no one shows up. Malia talks to Peter in the vault. Monday, January 23rd. Haig sets Parrish on fire. Sheriff Stilinski gets shot in the shoulder and goes to the hospital. Lydia decodes her grandmother's note. Tuesday, January 24th. Stiles and Lydia go to Eichen House and get captured by Brunsky. Haig's men capture Scott, Liam, and Malia at the bonfire at the school and nearly kill them. Braden and Derek save Scott, Liam, and Malia. Brunsky dies. Meredith is revealed as part of the benefactor's plan. Meredith and Lydia go to the station. Kira finds Brett and the rest of Satomi's pack. Stiles goes to the hospital to have his concussion checked out. Wednesday, January 25th. Malia goes to see Stiles in the hospital. Peter talks to Meredith and learns that he's the benefactor. Scott, Derek, Braden, and Satomi's pack hold up in the Argent Arms building and fend off an attack. The benefactor's computer is shut down. February 2012. Thursday, February 2nd. Placed here so the trip to Mexico occurs on a weekend as none of them were in school. Derek captures a Wendigo named Patrick and sees Dr. Valak. Scott comes home to find his mom has found the Hale money. Liam begs Mason to keep playing video games because he doesn't want to be alone. Friday, February 3rd. Scott returns the money that he thinks is Derek's, but it isn't. Chris tracks Kate to a water treatment plant, and Peter impels him to a wall. Kate captures Scott and Kira. Lacrosse game that Scott and Kira miss. Kate turns Scott into a berserker and has him stab Kira. Saturday, February 4th. Another full moon occurs. Stiles tells his father that Scott and Kira have been kidnapped. Stiles, Derek, Peter, Braden, Malia, and Liam go to Mexico to rescue them. Derek and Stiles teach Liam how to control his shift on a full moon. Scott fights Peter and knocks him out. Chris and Parrish show up and fight Kate and the berserkers. Chris leaves with the Calaveras. Sunday, February 5th. Derek and Braden leave Beacon Hills. Scott, Stiles, Malia, and Kira deliver Peter to Eichen House. And this brings us to the end of the Teen Wolf Season 4 events. Six months later, summer 2012, Sunday, August 5th. Full moon. Parrish discovers a hybrid creature in the empty house at night. Senior scribe at night at the high school. Belasco attacks Scott and tries to steal his power. Theo returns to Beacon Hills to join Scott's pack. Monday, August 6th, the first day of Scott McCall's senior year of high school. Tracy talks to Miss Martin. Stiles and Liam follow Theo into the woods. Lydia meets Parrish at midnight to bring him coffee. Theo is revealed to be capable of a full shift and to have fake parents. Tracy's dad has to go to meet a client at the courthouse. Tuesday, August 7th. Lydia is wearing different clothes from when she brought coffee to Parrish, putting this at the next day. Sheriff plans to go on a date. Donovan's transport van is attacked. Lydia and Kira give Malia driving lessons. Wednesday, August 8th. The pack meets to talk about Tracy. Tracy goes to the school looking for Miss Martin but collapses and is taken to the animal clinic. Tracy escapes and Malia follows her to the sheriff's station. Lydia and Kira arrive to warn Miss Martin and the sheriff that Tracy is coming, but they are too late. Malia chases Tracy into the basement and they fight, but the Dread Doctors intervene and kill Tracy. Scott, Theo, and Stiles arrive at the sheriff's station to find Lydia injured and Tracy dead. The Dread Doctors come to collect Donovan. Lydia has surgery to fix her wound. Thursday, August 9th. Lydia wakes up from her surgery to find Parrish in her room. Lucas attacks his boyfriend Corey at cinema. Mason and Liam meet up with Brett at cinema. The doctors kill Lucas when he fails to beat Scott. Donovan attacks Stiles and gets killed in the process. Friday, August 10th. Scott, Lydia, Stiles, and Kira visit Eichen House to see Valak to let the Dread Doctors in. Malia and Theo go for a drive and Malia sees a vision of the Desert Wolf. Thursday, August 16th. Kira makes copies of the Dread Doctor's book and they all start to read. Theo records Kira speaking Japanese while she's asleep. Liam gives Hayden $43. Friday, August 17th. Scott has an asthma attack. Lydia has a vision of her grandmother. Theo kills the Chimera to save Stiles, who was revealed to be the Chimera Josh. Liam discovers that Hayden is another Chimera. Liam saves Hayden from the Dread Doctors and takes her to Scott's house. Saturday, August 18th. Noshiko makes Kira show her Kitsune Fox Aura. The pack tries to capture the Dread Doctors in the school. Liam and Hayden are taken by the Dread Doctors. Melissa discovers a dead Chimera at her house. The sheriff shows up and puts out an APB for Kira. Parrish takes the body from the morgue. Sunday, August 19th. Scott, Mason, and Malia go to the water treatment plant to look for the Dread Doctors. Theo finds Liam and Hayden in the house where Parrish found Belasco. Now, these events for the rest of the video do not have a specific set date because it's very confusing with the Teen Wolf timeline after the last events on the August 19th Sunday that I just mentioned. So if I don't say a date for these next events, it's because there's no specific day where these events take place, at least that are mentioned on the show as far as to my knowledge. So, during the supermoon, Liam tries to kill Scott in a rage but fails. Theo kills Scott but is brought back to life thanks to Malia. Theo incapacitates Lydia and resurrects the dead chimeras for his pack. Valak interrogates Malia on the recent events. Kira fails the Skinwalker's test. Malia and Brayden rescue Deaton from the Desert Wolf and the Beast of Jevudan. Both Scott and Theo's packs break into Eichen House for Lydia. Peter escapes from Eichen House during the chaos only to be taken by the Wild Hunt. Deucalion manipulates Theo and his pack. Tamora Monroe is left for dead on a bus after being attacked by the Beast of Jevudan until she is rescued by the Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Stilinski. Parrish learns more of his Hellhound counterpart from Chris and Gerard and learns that his Hellhound is named Cerberus. The Doctors resurrect the Beast of Jevudan through Mason Hewitt. Scott, Lydia, and Parrish bring back Mason and destroy the Beast once and for all, killing Sebastian Valet. Malia fights her mother and takes the rest of her power. Kira uses her sword to have Theo dragged into the earth by his dead sister. Hayden allows Scott to turn her into a werewolf, freeing her of being a chimera. Kira says goodbye to Scott one last time and goes with the Skinwalkers to learn control over her fox spirit. And the Lowenmensch, Garrett Douglas, who was in a containment tube and held there for 70 years by the Dread Doctors, escapes. This brings us to the end of the Teen Wolf Season 5 events. Three months later, Styles is taken by the Ghost Riders and erased from existence. Chris and Melissa begin to form a relationship. 3 more months pass, and Lydia and the others begin to feel something or someone is missing from their life. Stilinski's dead wife, Claudia, tries to convince him that Styles doesn't exist. Douglas kills people for their pineal glands in order to gain more power and to gain back his strength before going up against the Ghost Riders. In the Wild Hunt, Styles helps Peter escape and contacts his friends. Scott, Malia, and Lydia visit Canaan and find the Banshee Leonore. Liam uses Kira's sword to bring back Theo to help stop the Ghost Riders. The group traps a rider, but Douglas kills it and takes his pineal gland, and gaining their abilities and effectively becoming a tribrid. Corey is taken and hooked up to an intercom. Scott, Malia, and Lydia remember enough Styles that he is able to come back across from the Ghost Rider's dimension into the real world. Styles, Lydia, and Stilinski take down Ghost Rider Claudia. Scott, Malia, Theo, and Peter fight Douglas and his army of the Wild Hunt. Liam, Mason, and Hayden find Corey and disconnect him from the intercom, returning the captured souls taken by the Ghost Riders over the years and in Beacon Hills. The Ghost Riders depart with Douglas as their new recruit. The last day of senior year, Scott and Styles leave protection of Beacon Hills to Liam and Mason. This brings us to the end of the Teen Wolf Season 6 Part 1 events. Howland escapes Eichen House to find an Anukate that Scott's pack let out after the Wild Hunt was stopped. Tamora Monroe becomes the guidance counselor at the high school. While training at the FBI, Styles discovers Derek is on the run for mass murder and rescues him from an FBI manhunt. Dr. Fenris kills all the creatures in the closed unit of Eichen House. Through Nolan and Aaron, the Anukate reveals the supernaturals of Beacon Hills. Gerard and Monroe recruit the entire town of Beacon Hills to fight and kill all the supernaturals. Satomi's pack is decimated. Scott's pack discovers Gerard's plan to kill all supernaturals globally. Scott and Malia discover a savage pack known as the Primals, decimated by the Anukate, who now possesses a werewolf in that pack. Ethan and Jackson Whitmore return to Beacon Hills. Jackson returns to Beacon Hills for the first time in over 2 years. The Anukate merges as Howland dies. Argent finds Derek in Brazil. Deucalion teaches Malia and Scott how to fight blind. Gerard launches his final attack on Scott's pack, which results in his own apparent demise at the hands of his own daughter, Kate Argent, in her Were-Jaguar form. Scott and the others face the Anukete, who masquerades as loved ones and past villains until it is imprisoned in Mountain Ash by Styles Stilinski. Monroe escapes and leads her own hunters to continue her vendetta against the supernatural. Sometime later, about 2 years after, Scott finds Alec, whom he adds to the pack to fight and join in his cause against Monroe and her army. And this brings us to the end of Teen Wolf and the end of the Season 6 Part 2 events. And, by the way, when Scott finds when Scott finds Alec, that event takes place about 2 years after the events of Season 6B's finale, The Wolves of War, which places that event in early or mid-2015. If you have made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you for watching all the way through. This video literally took about 2 weeks to make, and numerous days and nights went into making this. And I try to get as many details from the show in as possible, not the minor ones. When I refer to details, I'm talking about the major ones. So I try to get as many major events in as possible. Like I said, for the second half of Season 5 and most of Season 6, it's really hard to pinpoint exact dates on when events take place. So I apologize if I didn't mention any specific days for Season 5 Part 2 and all of Season 6. It kind of just jumps and shifts multiple months, and it's really hard to pinpoint dates, as I mentioned before. But thank you for tuning in to the complete Teen Wolf timeline. I greatly appreciate it. I hope this video helps not just my viewers, but everybody who's interested in Teen Wolf, because I know plenty of people have questions. I had some myself on when everything in Teen Wolf takes place, and hopefully this timeline is simplified enough for you guys to understand easily. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you comment down below your thoughts on the Teen Wolf complete timeline. What could have been improved? I know I stuttered a lot in the video, but like I mentioned right at the beginning, if you guys remember, I did have COVID for like the first part of making this video, which was part 1. So yeah, that kind of messed up the whole flow of the video a little bit, but you know, I had to do what I had to do. The video had to get done. So yeah, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. And by the way, if you guys, I know some of my old subscribers know about this. I mentioned this like about 10 months ago, right at the start of the year, but I am still selling my Teen Wolf 10-year anniversary posters. I know a few of you guys said you wanted to buy them eventually, like once you guys started getting paid and stuff, you had enough money to buy them. I just wanted to let you guys know that you have about 2.5 to 3 weeks left to buy them, because by the time January 1st, 2022 comes, they will be off my store and you will no longer be able to buy the Teen Wolf 10-year anniversary poster. So if you still want your copy, make sure you go on my Jade's Corner website, which will be in the description down below. You guys can go in the art store and purchase the posters. They've been on sale for pretty much the entire year, so they're about like $5 if you want one. So if you just want some cool Teen Wolf art, you know, to just have, and you want to support me and support the channel, you guys can do that. But with that all said, that's really all I have to say for the rest of this video. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on post notifications. I'm Jade's Corner. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace, love, and positivity as always. And I will catch you guys in the next Teen Wolf video. Deuces.